All right, it looks like I'm going here. So what I'm going to go into just a little bit here is the move to gold and religion. Then I'm also going to talk to about about the 401k. So I'm going to actually take this off. It was a cold day today, or colder day today in South Texas. So the move to gold and religion, this is something that I'm seeing kind of shift right now. And it's happening because, well, a lot of other stuff is going to become unprofitable. So going forward, as the service sector economy, or what would be, I'm kindly referring to it as the service sector economy. It's a fake economy. But the service sector economy, as it continues to implode, more and more people are going to start looking for any way that they can try and survive or at least maintain their standard of living. And there's going to be a bunch of people who are going to move to religion. I mean, you're seeing it kind of everywhere, or at least I'm seeing it everywhere. I'm seeing an enormous amount of people now kind of going back to, now you can say that, well, no, it's people moving closer to God. Maybe. I would like to think that was the case. Even though I fit in the category of kind of an atheist, I would welcome people moving towards something maybe outside of themselves, just to maybe kind of mellow out a little bit and not be so high strung, or doing everything they can to be the new Marquis de Sade or something. So there are some people that are probably trying to do it for honest reasons. There are others, I think, that what's happening is that they're sort of little by little, we're seeing this sort of pop up with people where humanity just seems to do this. People seem to do this where they find something interesting or somebody who looks like they have some answers, and they want to deify that person practically, and thinking that, well, they've got all the answers now. So, and it's like, well, that's just not how it works, because advancements throughout time, time makes fools of everybody, right? You could be completely right about the nature of the universe 500 years ago, and then today we can look back and say, well, clearly they were wrong, even though they were the cutting-edge scientists of their day. So as a result, this kind of thing is going to become more prevalent. So you're going to see this. We're seeing this with science, right? So we're not talking about like objective, something that you're looking at. If I look at this pen, I see a pen. If you look at this pen, and we can both agree it's a pen, and then that we're going to use that word, to describe it, then that becomes scientific because it's objective. We're both seeing it, and we're both agreeing that these are the results. If I drop it, it's going to fall to the ground. We've done this before, and that's science. The religion of science that we're seeing sort of crop up now is one of these things that it's happening because, well, let me give you an example. I'm going to give you a good example of how this kind of thing works with religion. And I'm not picking on anybody. Don't misunderstand me. Just go with this, all right? Let's do a real world scenario. And this is probably how it actually happened in the real world, but for the purposes of this conversation, so that I don't get banned or a bunch of hate mail, I'm just going to call it a fictional story. Okay, you're in your country, and it's long ago. It's a couple thousand years ago, or maybe even 4,000 years ago. You're in your little village, and your entire village is, it's got a bunch of people, and you and a few other guys are the really successful goat and sheep herders, right? You raise goat and sheep, and what ends up happening is that you guys become really successful, and other people start working for you, and your local economy, your small economy, starts getting based on, well, it finds an equilibrium. It takes X amount of work for someone to do to make enough, what loosely termed money, okay, for them to be able to buy enough goat or mutton to feed their families, okay? So things are going along well. You're doing well. Everybody's kind of happy. We're all copacetic. You're giving money to your church or your your temple or your mosque or whatever, whatever enterprise of religion at the time. And you probably should, of course. I mean, if you're getting something out of it, if you're getting good advice out of it, I mean, I think you should give them advice. You should give them money. Anyway. So no different than if you went to a therapist or something. I think it's the same basic idea. So what ends up happening is that your economy is going well with this. Then, let's say on the outskirts of town, someone shows up, a pig farmer shows up. Now, some of you in livestock and agriculture, you already know where I'm going with this. The pig farmer, all of a sudden what happens is that your goat and your sheep, which produce, about usually two offspring, sometimes only one offspring per breeding session or breeding, season, can't produce as much meat overall as a pig. A pig will vastly outproduce meat. That's why almost everything you see out there in the world has pork in it. If you order pepperoni on pizza. In fact, if you look at like pizzas in general, if you order like one of those all meat madness pizzas that are out there, like usually 4 out of 8 of the toppings are some kind of a pork product. It's because pigs produce incredibly fast. Well, what does that do to your economy? Remember, you're the goat herder, you're the sheep herder, you're the shepherd, and you're like, hold the phone. This guy shows up here, and he's got this magic animal that turns mealy apples that nobody wants to eat into bacon. We can't, this isn't going to work for us. And so what ends up happening? These guys turn to religion in the most literal sense. They go to the priest or whomever, and they say, "Hey, we're the ones who give you the majority of the money in the area. If you total up all the money we give you versus all the money that the peasants give you, we give you way more money. So you need to figure out how to make this, sin to eat pork or to have any kind of a pork product, but don't even look at pigs because, well, it's in other words, it's an example of shifting to religion. You're turning to religion to try and to make sure that you keep your lifestyle. A lot of people are going to start doing this. You're going to see more religions than in the 60s. Oh my God. And it's already popping up. Everybody who has even a slight answer to something all of a sudden becomes damn near, a lesser God. It's kind of weird. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't respect people. I'm not saying you shouldn't like people. I'm not saying that you shouldn't maybe listen to what they say, even if you disagree with them. And even if they get something wrong, remember, not everybody can be right 100% of the time, every single time. That's just not reality. And so, and there's also this, which goes, by the way, let me nail this real quickly. I don't know where this came from, that you all of a sudden, if somebody, you're kind of understanding what someone's telling you, and you're learning a bunch of stuff from them, and you're getting a lot of good stuff from them, then all of a sudden they say something that you disagree with, and so all of a sudden now everything they've said is completely worthless. I don't know where that came from. Ding dong, you need to go out. This is Schrodinger, and he came in to visit, so I don't know how he got in here. Let's go outside. That's good kitty. I don't know how he got in here. Anyway, so that's what ends up happening. And you're going to see more and more shift to religion. I think that there's going to be more and more of that. And it's not going to be called a religion. It's going to be called every euphemism except a religion, but it's basically going to be a religion. Because it's going to be largely either faith-based or it's going to be based in some kind of intangible. It's not going to be something that's going to be based on reality. This segues into gold and why there's going to be more of a push to go back to a gold standard. Now, first of all, a gold standard is it's not going to work. You could call it a marginally better idea, but it's not going to work. You're going to be right back in the rat race in no time. This is why Texit, for example, the people who want to do Texit, and one of these days, I may do a video just on Texit alone, just and break down the governmental idea behind Texit. And because the number one issue that you have to figure out with Texit is the currency issue. That's the number one issue. Number two is it a human right to be able to defend yourself? That's once you can decide those things, then we can move on from there. But most everything is pretty much branches from those two things. But so the move to the gold, the idea of moving back to a gold standard, what's going to end up happening is that you, and I think I've mentioned this before, but you won't make it 3 or 4 days before what'll happen is they will hypothecate more digital gold or paper gold than there is gold to back it. People are they're far too addicted to government services than to have an actual honest gold economy. If you wanted to make the case with me that you wanted to have gold coins, and I think I covered this before. I don't go back and watch a lot of these videos. I just I kind of run and just go with it. But if no one is going to go back to a physical gold economy. I would be okay with it personally, but I know what I'm looking at, and I know how to test for gold. But most people aren't going to, they're not going to bite coin. It's just not going to happen. So it's going to be digital, which means, or paper, which means they're going to need a trusted third party, which means you will be right back in the same position that you are right now, and it won't take very long at all. In fact, actually, with the digital, because of how quickly everything moves, it won't take long at all before you're, right back in the same spot trying to figure out what the hell happened. Well, that's why. So this push to gold and religion, or it's a defensive play that people are making, and it's like, oh my God, we've really screwed things up. We've managed to just pig fuck everything, grill first, right into the dirt, and we don't know what we're going to do. And that's what's kind of happening. So, I mean, you may not like the analogy, but you understood it anyway. So, just kind of be warned that that's where a lot of stuff is gonna go, and you're gonna see more and more of it. So just heads up, my suggestion to everybody would be, look, as soon as anyone starts asking for money, they start asking for fame, notoriety, all kinds of special treatment, be cautious. Just be careful. And then, of course, the trusted third party idea of going to gold, it requires a trusted third party. I don't know if you know this about me or not, or if you've gotten this vibe off me, but I kind of have trust issues, just largely because I've been burned by a lot of people. And I've also seen a lot of people get burned. And what I'm seeing a lot of that I think is coming is going to be a lot of people who mean really well, and they're going to get themselves hurt. They're going to trust some group of people or a bank or what have you, and they're going to give them all their money, and it's not going to work. It's going to be just another Ponzi scheme. With most banking, most everything that you're seeing right now, it fits the definition of a Ponzi scheme. We talked about this, I think, 2 or 3 videos ago, where all the extremities are being basically cut off and being sacrificed to try and protect the vitals. Well, that is really truly what's happening, and that's because the big banks have big companies that owe them big bucks. They have to grow. They have no choice, and the only way they're going to grow anymore is to wipe out all the competitors. This is the final. Think of it like a parasite that just finally exsanguinated the host, and they're just getting the last drop of blood out of it. Once that happens, this whole service sector economy, which is a Ponzi scheme, just is going to collapse, and you're going to see it happen really fast. It's going to go. When this finally goes, it's just going to be. It'll be interesting, unlike the Roman Empire. So when the Roman Empire collapsed, it took hundreds of years before all the extremities of Rome knew that Rome collapsed. That's not going to happen now because of this right here. This just me talking to this camera, but on the other side of the camera, it's kind of weird to think about it. On the other side of this camera, there could be, a dozen people, 24 people, maybe even 100 or something. Don't get me wrong. I don't flatter myself. I don't expect I'll ever get more than if I get more than 500 people that ever follow anything I do, I would be fucking stunned. So there we have it. 401ks. I want to touch on this because this was something that had come up on Twitter. On my Twitter account, there was a guy who pointed out, like, it was the debate was like, is 401k savings, or is savings different from a 401k? you have to understand what a 401k is. By definition, a 401k is not savings. It is not, by definition. Because at a 401k, if you read any of those brokerage forms, what does it say? It says past performance. It says in black and white, usually in bold print and all caps and underscored in these brokerage agreements. It says you understand the risk. And you understand that past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. You could lose, some, all, or more of your investments, your house, wife, kids, will to live, all of it. It says that you understand that. And it's critical that you understand this, because that is, you are in fact you're taking your money and you're giving it right back to the same people that just paid you. Right? Now, I don't know if you remember this movie. There's a Gary Oldman movie, and I can't think of the French actor's name. He's been in a bunch of stuff. He's a great actor, but Natalie Portman's in it with him, and it's called The Professional. And I don't know if you remember this movie or not, but there's a scene in this movie, and I think Danny Aiello, if I remember right, plays the kind of the mob boss. He's sort of the mafia don, and Leon, which is the character's name, is the Italian hitman, right? And then what happens is that this mob boss, is in this conversation with Leon. He's like saying, you don't want to leave your money in the banks. Banks get knocked over. Money gets lost and everything. You're better off just leaving your money with me, and I'll take good care of it. And whenever you need some money, I'll give you some money. I'll dole it out to you. That's effectively what you're doing, if you really understand what's happening in the broad sense. Well, no, but my money is coming from me, and then the company matches it, and then they put it into the stock market, where it's blasted into the stock market, into companies, and then the stock market goes up, and so therefore I make money. Well, first of all, you're not making money if your inflation rate is 12% and you're making a 12% return. You're making zero. In most cases, you're not even making the rate of inflation. In order to beat the market, there's very few people that actually beat the market, so to speak. And they are banks and insurance companies. Remember, I'm always going to come back to this, that there's a reason why they have to beat the market, because they're the ones that are getting all the money. Remember, when the Federal Reserve, or when a reserve bank prints money, right? They don't. In order to borrow a dollar, or in order to print a dollar, somebody has to be willing to borrow a dollar, right? We understand this. What ends up happening, though, is that they don't print the interest to cover the loan. So, does that make sense? Because I feel a lot of people don't really understand this. If the government borrows $1 trillion, let's say, from the Fed prints $1 trillion. It takes about 5 minutes. And they type it into the account, and shazam, now the government can go spend. They don't print the interest. There is no way, by definition, to ever pay that off. It will always perpetually be debt owed to whomever, right? This is it's a scam. There's no other way to say this. It's a scam. That's why I always hammer on the banks, insurance companies, and the government, because these things they're not real, and they're just conning you. I hate to sound redundant on this, but it can't be said enough. So what happens is you're giving your money to a 401k, and then the company's matching it. Well, my question would be like, well, hold on a second here. If the company can afford to match your contribution, let's say you're putting $1,000 in and they're matching $1,000, well, it begs the question immediately, like, well, why couldn't the company just afford to pay me an extra $1,000 in my paycheck? I mean, if they can afford to do this, why can't they just give me the $1,000? I could use that right now and go do something else with it. Or I could pay bills with it right now. Like, well, no, it's to save for later on and what have you. It's like, that sounds like the conversation in The Professional with Danny Aiello and the hitman. I can't remember the name of the mafia don. It's been like a decade and a half since I've seen that movie. I'm just going from memory. So that sounds like that conversation. Like, well, you kind of follow what I'm saying. It's like you're just putting your money back into the system. What they've done is they've created a system where you're monetizing your own destruction, right? Because remember, as more and more of these you could say that, well, no, these businesses are being more convenient and so on. Yeah, but they're by definition not profitable. because they're having to continually grow, and they can't continually grow. They can't. Businesses can only pay out so much, no matter what kind of business it is, whether it's a big business or a small business. It can only pay out so much money. So let's say you got a loan, for example. Okay, so a business has to pay the bank, the insurance company, taxes, and then they've got their fixed cost, like their buildings and what have you, and then they've got all these other costs that are down here. Now, what do these all have in common here? They're not elastic. These are not. They don't let you just. The banks don't just let you decide to, like, oh, I'm only going to pay you. I'm going to pay you less this month. Okay, they freak out if you do that. Why? Because then the principal have to get involved and they have to make up the difference and so on, and it becomes a big problem. Insurance companies, they'll just cancel it. So they'll just cancel you. Taxes, they'll just take everything. They don't care. They just theft. They'll just steal everything. That's how it works. And then you've got your fixed costs, and you've got your vendors, and da-da-da-da-da-da. Okay, well, the only elasticity you're going to have, think of it like your household, right? So your household, if all of a sudden money gets tight, what do a lot of people do? They start cutting back on things like going out to eat. They start cutting out, or if they go out to eat, they don't go out to the nice restaurant anymore. They go to the garbage restaurant, or they go to, Burger Douche or something like that. And instead of going to a good restaurant that actually sells, healthy food. Well, you have elasticity, but for example, your mortgage company or your rent, if you're paying $1,800 a month in rent or mortgage, they don't care that you don't have any money to pay that. They want their money no matter what. So your own elasticity is your own health. It's a reason why a lot of Americans are very unhealthy. So one of the many reasons. Don't try and put that on any one thing. It's a lot of factors. Well, in a business, where do they have elasticity? Well, right down here, employees. I can't. Anyway, it's at an. Remember, we talked about this before. So this is the board's at an angle and stuff, and I can't. I'm not going to drop down and do all that anyway. But employees, and this is why you're seeing wages basically flat or shrink. It's because the companies can just keep. What they do is they do a very clever marketing trick. They get a bunch of people, particularly people on the right who can't do math, defending this by saying things like, no, you're just being lazy and stupid, and you just don't want to work. There aren't enough hours in the day to do any of this stuff. I feel I've been very clear about this. I think I've given enough examples of real world examples of what with inflation, that there aren't enough hours for people to work any longer. At a certain point, you can't. Your money becomes worthless because the dollar is becoming worthless. Remember, like I pointed out before, the dollar is the single most worthless currency that's ever existed in the history of mankind, and it's getting worthless-er. I didn't know it was even possible, but here we are. So this is why companies are doing this. They're squeezing out the employees. This is why you're seeing, like they used to have the good health plan, right? For those of you in corporate America, they used to have the good health. What's my time? I'm okay. They used to have the good health plan at your company, right? And then now, 5 years ago, cut to 5 years later, cut to now, and it's like, oh, well, they kind of have, it's an okay plan. I had to change my doctor, or I could still go to my doctor, but my doctor, doesn't really like this plan, and so I have to pay this or I have to pay that. I'm seeing posts all the time from people saying, this is kind of ridiculous. It's like might do anything. Well, it's because it's not actually insurance. Remember, insurance, the goal of an insurance company, if you and I started an insurance company, what's our goal? Our goal is to make money, right? Not pay out claims. That's not our goal. We don't want to pay out claims. Who the hell wants to do that? We're in the business of trying to make money. We want to be rich. We want to have big-titted bitches and a yacht and do all this kind of, we want all that stuff, right? We want the trophy wife and the big house and all that, we want all that shit, right? But it doesn't work if we have to pay out all these goddamn claims. That's why most insurance companies do everything they can to not pay claims. They go out of their way to not pay claims. That's why you have to sue them to get them to do anything. And in most cases, they still want to argue with you the whole time. Imagine if you went to a casino in Vegas and you were playing blackjack and you see that your cards are dealt. You've got 2 10s, and your dealer's got a 6 showing. This is like a perfect hand, right? I mean, the odds of you winning that are heavily in your favor at that point. So they flip it over. All of a sudden, dealer busts, and you win. Imagine for a second you having to sue the casino to pay that bet. That's how insurance companies operate. It really is that bad. Okay, you pay a premium, for example. So let me explain how it works in the commercial trucking industry. So the trucking industry, let's say you insure your truck for $100,000. Okay, this is big truck. These are your semi trucks. These are all the trucks that are that are keeping you alive for the most part. Whether you want to believe that or not, it's the truth. Let's say you're paying $100,000 for insurance on that truck, and then all of a sudden the truck, gets wrecked or stolen or something. The insurance company doesn't want to pay out $100,000. Now you've been paying premiums based on $100,000 value, but the insurance company will say well, we think it's only worth $40,000. Here's 40 grand, and then you're like, no, dude, you need to pay me the 100 grand. I've been paying $100,000. You billed me monthly based on $100,000 risk assessment. Okay, you've lost your bet because that's all it is. It's a casino. Whether you can call it whatever you want. You guys can use whatever clever euphemisms and horse shit that you want to come up with, but the fact is it's a fucking casino. Okay? So you've been paying premiums based on that. And then they say, well, we don't want to pay that. That's all it is. They just don't want to pay it. So this whole system can't continue to work, and this is why you're seeing all this. And you're going to see a move to religion and gold. You're going to see, there's going to be people out there trying to claim that no, it's going to work like this, it's going to work like that. It's not. So sorry to trail off a little bit near the end and everything, because what ends up happening is I get on a tangent because I see this stuff all the time, and I see people arguing about this, and it's like, dude, can you do the math on this stuff? Look at it. It's just like the people who say things, they pop off with stupid shit like, oh, well, if the cop pulls you over and they do something that violates your right, just sue them. Have you ever tried to sue a cop? Try it. Try it. How many lawsuits have you successfully mounted in your life? Try it. Try to sue the city. Good luck with that. Good luck with, I have friends that have airtight cases right now. Airtight, 100%, all the names, everything. Nobody, not one lawyer anywhere will touch that case. They won't touch it because it's way too hot, because they look at it and they go, man, if I take this case, this is the only case I'm going to ever take again. Because what will happen is that there's a practical reality. I will get shut out of every cocktail party as a lawyer. I won't be invited to any of these things, and I'll probably never make my goal of being a judge someday. These are all true things that actually happen. This goes through people's minds. That's why they'll say, well, yeah, I'm not going to touch that. That's, even though it's an airtight case, doesn't make any difference. Unless you're a super rich crusader type lawyer, and there aren't many of those. Let me just tell you, there ain't many of those. Unless you're like that, it'll never happen. So when people just pop off with these stupid statements, you have no idea how dumb that shit sounds to somebody who's actually done several lawsuits. And it's like the amount of work that it takes, the amount of money it takes, and the amount of time, the enormous amount of time. And they will drag this shit out for years. I've been in lawsuits that have lasted years to get anything done. And even then, at the very end, you find out it really wasn't worth it in the first place to do all that stuff. So anyway, so there you have it. There's that. I'll come back with something else and everything. I think the next video I'm going to cover, Texit and money and the importance of how that relationship works. That'll be more of a governmental discussion. So just keep in mind, we'll go into probably some heavy government and law discussion at that point. So see you then.